Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this free recap video, we're going to talk about crude oil. This is single-handedly one of the biggest moves that we saw today, and it's also the move that I've got the most questions on. So one of the reasons that this has been such a dramatic move is, first of all, this was a move that moved twice as much as the daily price movement. It was what I call a 2x move. Our typical movement in crude on the upper end any day of the week is about $1.50 to about $1.80. That's a typical price movement. Today's move is 2x that, darn near 2x that. So how do you know that? Well, what you do is you take the high of the range and you subtract it from the low, which basically is a 780 to 67.49. That's a $3.30 move we saw today. Now, you go back on over here to the movement per day. For Friday, our typical move is about $1.55. So when I say 2x, I literally mean we move twice as much as the typical price movement range. Not for the week, but not that far off, right? For the week, it's usually about $1.75 times 2. That would put us at $3.50. Well, we were at $3.30. So when I say this is an extreme move, this is twice the typical, what's known as a 68% average for this market. So that's not normal. Normal is one daily price movement range, not two. And even when you look at the reaction, there's a couple things I think at play here. Number one is OPEC. You look at the fact that OPEC has opened Pandora's box by bringing in the notion that they're okay in a reduction of cuts because of any number of reasons. Iran, Venezuela, Brazil, Angola. So now we're talking about increasing supply, although they never want to say that. They're just reducing cuts a little bit to make up for that gap. Exactly who believes them? Well, according to this, nobody. In other words, once you open Pandora's box, how do you reel that back in? It was hard enough to get the 90+% compliance they've seen. So now in front of the June OPEC meeting, there's a lot of concern about increases in supply and now an increase in what could be production, which is going to be worded as a decrease in the cuts, right? You got to emphasize the cuts. That's going to be big for OPEC. So I think another thing that exacerbated the move was Friday. You know, a lot of traders are looking at the last day of the week. We're closing in on the closing days of the month. And this seemed as good a reason as any to unwind some positions, realize a profit, which fed some momentum players and bearish scalpers to the downside. That's typical of taking profits off the table, which is not a net short position, but rather unwinding along. But as those sell orders hit, liquidating long positions, you know, you get the speculators, the momentum players, the short-term day traders just taking advantage of that price movement. And that exacerbates the move as well. A broken uptrend, which is what we have now, and it moved, I mean, it's a swift break. This wasn't a break done in shifts. This was a swift break. But now we come to a third circle here. And that is, where does this market in front of the OPEC meeting or with the OPEC meeting start to catch bids and head back up? And that's the question. When will we do that? I don't think it's a matter of if. There are too many major oil producers, including the U.S., who have a vested interest in crude oil staying expensive. The Saudis need it. They have their Aramco IPO. Shale producers in the U.S. need it. It's very expensive to, relatively speaking, when you look at general cost per barrel, it's expensive to extract, you know, that shale extraction process is expensive. And then additionally, there's reinvestment in the pipelines, there's reinvestment in the infrastructures. So that price has got to stay high to keep the oil debt ratios within reasonable amounts so the banks will continue to lend these companies money. Too many folks have vested interest in this market heading higher, which means not only do we still have a few more weeks left of the seasonal summer driving season rally, but we have, going past that, the likelihood not of significant higher highs, but of this market levitating near and maybe at slightly higher highs. I'm not seeing a big push in terms of the uptrend resuming with a vengeance, but I will not be surprised to see a little bit of chop and then it's starting to see this market chop higher. All right, so that means I'm going to be looking for buys next week. And when I do, you know it's going to be an alert. We'll talk plenty about it. I'll see you in the next update.